Hey, hi, how are you? My name is Felt. Welcome back to Final Fantasy XIV. Today we're talking about Black Mage and how it feels in Endwalker. As someone who fell in love with his job, the latter half of Shadowbringers, even to the point of savage rating on it, I think it's in a great spot right now. Now, I've never been the greatest Black Mage player of all time. As you might see during my rotation, I flub a few things here and there. The gist of the rotation is right, and I will explain the optimal rotation, that is the quote-unquote proper way to play Black Mage, and I'll also talk a little bit about the weird paradox rotation that I've seen floating around the internet. But let's just get started by talking about its skills, shall we? So Black Mage skills are essentially the same as they were in Shadowbringers, with a few noticeable and very powerful additions. Biggest ones being there were really solid and interesting changes to your AoE, and there was also a really solid change to your single target with Amplifier and Paradox. Let's start by talking about Paradox because it's the biggest change to the kit. Paradox is an ability that, as per its trait description, you get a Paradox marker in your elemental gauge after reaching Astral Fire 3, then swapping to the opposite element. Conversely, the marker can also be made after reaching Umbral Ice 3 and gaining 3 Umbral Hearts, and then swapping to the opposite element. In other words, if you're an Astral Fire and you swap to Umbral Ice, you get a Paradox proc. If you're an Umbral Ice with 3 Umbral Hearts and swap to Fire, you get a Paradox proc. Paradox is a spell that is instant cast in Ice and a 2.32 cast in Fire that will trigger Fire Starter procs to give you a Fire 3 proc in Fire, and in Ice it's just an instant cast that is very powerful. Both times it's dealing a straight 500 potency, and as far as I know, it is not affected by Astral Fire, so it does not get that 1.6 multiplier, which means that it is more powerful than a Fire 4, but not quite as powerful as a Despair. Despair ekes it out slightly by like 40 potency or something. We also got new stuff with Amplifier, which is just gives you a stack of Xenoglossy the button. I know the skill's called Polyglot. I have a bad habit of just calling it Xenoglossy because that's typically what you use it on in single target. We also got a slight shift to ley lines. It's now a 2-minute cooldown in place of a 90-second cooldown, but that's kind of fine in my mind. It pushes us into the 2-minute rotation that a lot of jobs are sitting in right now. The rest of the kit basically plays the same. When you enter Fire, you want to hit 3 Fire 4s, hit Fire 1, or Paradox nowadays, hit 3 Fire 4s, and end in Despair. When you enter Ice, it's a little different now. It used to be all about spending only 2 GCDs at maximum inside of Ice, but now we can spend up to 3 in there because of the power of Paradox. On average, when you're swapping to Ice, you'll start by hitting Blizzard 3, you'll hit Blizzard 4, you'll use your Thundercloud proc to use Thunder 3, and you'll use Paradox. Now that you can do that backwards, you could use Paradox first to weave in your Sharpcast to then hit your Thunder 3 proc, and then go back into Astral Fire. There's a little bit of ways to think about how to play Black Mage right now. I'm still figuring it out because of the fact that we have double Sharpcast, double triple cast, new timer for Ley Lines, Mana Font, and Xenoglossy because of Amplifier. Also forgot to mention Mana Font got turned into a 2-minute cooldown as well, so it aligns with our burst window. Still personally figuring out how that works and how to best use it myself. However, it seems to just simply be during your 2-minute burst window, you will just use your Mana Font because it's up, as was the way in the past, just at the 3-minute window. Let's just do a really quick talk about the AoE because the AoE has changed drastically. And by drastically, I mean it's changed a lot, even though it's not insanely different. The big difference is now you use Blizzard 2, because even normal Blizzard 2 has become not a self-centered AoE, but an AoE centered on the target you're aiming at. And Fire 2 has the gaining of Enhanced Flare when you cast it inside of Astral Fire. So your AoE rotation has changed a little bit in that you will use High Blizzard 2 in place of just spamming Freeze to enter into Ice Phase. You will use Freeze to give yourself your 3 Umbral Hearts that you need to multicast Flare. You will use High Fire 2 to swap back to Fire. You'll use High Fire 2 again to get your Flare, and then you will double Flare out of High Fire 2, switch back to Ice, regen your mana. You can use your Foul procs inside of mana, use your Thunder inside of mana, inside of Ice Phase while you're regening mana, use your Thunder procs while you're inside of Ice to regen your mana, and just kind of keep doing the rotation. The way that it typically starts up in a pull is you will hit your High Blizzard 2 on the adds as they're moving to be in Ice Phase, you will hit a Thunder 4 with a Sharp Cast. You will use Freeze to get up your Umbral Hearts. You will hit your High Fire 2, and then you'll probably triple cast to High Fire 2, double Flare, and hit Mana Font afterwards. And then either Swift the last Flare or something similar so that it casts faster. And then you'll probably use your Amplifier to get up your Foul somewhere along the lines in there during those instant casts. That's personally how I do it and how I recommend doing it. Black Mage AoE is very powerful right now because of the way that it's been altered, and it feels much more consistent across all levels of play, not just at 80 and 90. So let's talk about Black Mage's opener, and I'll go a little more in detail about the rotation. I know I mentioned it earlier, but because of the markers in the video description, I'm going to specifically mark this as opener and rotation discussion, so that if you just wanted to know about the opener and rotation, you can come straight here and not miss any of it. So, the opener that I've personally been doing and been having great success with is you'll pre-pull a Sharp Cast, hopefully 10 to 12 seconds ahead of the pull, but as long as you cast it beforehand, it'll probably work out for you. Don't sweat it too much. With 2 charges of Sharp Cast, it's a little more forgiving nowadays. You'll start by hitting Fire 3 to instantly enter into Fire Phase. Then you'll use Thunder 3, and you'll clip yourself to use it, but you'll hit your triple cast to use Fire 4, Fire 4, and then you will technically use a potion afterwards. And you'll Fire 4, double weave your Amplifier ley lines, Fire 4 again, hit your Swift cast to Fire 4, hit triple cast, hit Despair, Mana Font, Fire 4 Despair, so you get off your double Despair opener. And then here's where it's gotten really different from Shadowbringers, despite the fact that double triple cast is already making things weird. When you enter into Ice Phase, you will spend probably 4 GCDs in there, because you'll enter into Ice, you'll hit your Paradox, you'll want to hit your free Xenoglossy you got from the Amplifier, you'll want to reapply your Thunder, and you want to hit Blizzard 4 to go back into Fire Phase, and then just do your standard rotation, which will typically be 3 Fire 4s, Paradox, 3 Fire 4s, Despair. And then when you go into Ice Phase, it'll typically be Blizzard 4, Blizzard 3, Blizzard 4, Paradox, Thundercloud proc, and a Xenoglossy if you need movement or to not overcap. And then go back into Fire, triple Fire 4, Paradox, triple Fire 4, Despair. All the classics. The way that the job's been working for quite a while with the triple Fire 4. Then your Astral Fire upkeep and the triple Fire 4, ending in Despair like we did in Shadowbringers. And then swapping into Ice. The biggest change is that the way that you swap into Ice, you're now spending 3 to 4 GCDs in there as opposed to 2 to 3 like you used to. It's very forgiving nowadays with mana ticks, and you'll still do tons of great damage inside of Ice because Paradox being 500 potency is just massive. There's also a really interesting way to use a Paradox and Astral Fire right now. So if you receive a Firestarter proc from Paradox and Astral Fire, you can swap to Ice by using Blizzard 3, hit Blizzard 4. You have a free GCD to hit something else, either Thunder or Xenoglossy. Then you'll hit your Paradox inside of Ice. You will hit Transpose. Then you hit Fire 3, which is supposedly a slight DPS gain in a lot of ways, which is absolutely wild and mind-blowing to me. It's up to you if you want to try and figure that out and use that. I personally am going to, for the most part, unless like I can figure it out and realize what a gain this is, stick to the classic triple Fire 3, Paradox, triple Fire 3, Despair, and then use Ice to upkeep Thunder, Blizzard 4, Paradox, and sometimes Xenoglossy. The 2-minute window for burst is a little crazy right now because you'll have ley lines and you'll probably have 3 stacks of Polyglot to use, and by that I mean you'll be able to hit 2 Xenoglossies and use an Amplifier to get a 3rd. Xenoglossy is your highest damage spell besides Despair, so I personally feel like the way that the 2-minute burst window should work would be finding ways to fit in 2 Despairs, because Mana Font will be back up, as well as all 3 Xenoglossies, while your ley lines are down and the party buffs are rolling. Exactly how that's supposed to work out, I'm not 100% on right now. I will be completely forthcoming and honest. I'm still figuring out how to best optimize it myself. You'll see so in my gameplay that's coming up in a second. However, I will say it still feels really good and comfy, and Black Mage's personal optimization is more based around how you align into party buffs, not how party buffs are being applied to the rest of the party, like a lot of other jobs out there right now. But either way, thanks for hanging out and watching. This will be the end of the talking portion of the video. The rotation, opener, and all that stuff will be following as I beat up a striking dummy. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like, leave a comment, leave a subscribe if you want to, and I hope to catch you in the next one.